Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and we have breaking news. The Penn sighting heard around the world. As for the last half century, people have written books, articles, produced magazines, created conventions, spoke, recordings, and now today, videos on the conspiracies, as we have always said, that involve our country. And this event that happened today is probably one of the biggest for many who are considered conspiracy theorists, because Donald Trump has signed an executive order to declassify MLK, RFK, and JFK's assassination files. Let's take a listen.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years, for decades. And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, and the pen will be given to RFK Jr. What an extraordinary day. Now, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist type person. I had a passing interest in all these things, but of course, as you know, here on the BuzWeaver channel, we do cover and talk a lot about the establishment uniparty, the deep state, the machine, and of course, they always turn the cogs, so if anyone goes up against them, they make it seem as though you have no idea what you're talking about. You're a conspiracy theory. Look, the witnesses can't confirm what's going on. There's not enough information. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. All that is about to change, and now we go over here to CBS News. Trump signs executive order to release more JFK, RFK, MLK assassination files. This is huge, or as our friends up north say, this is huge. President Trump announced that he'll declassify any remaining files from the assassination of President JFK, his brother RFK, and civil rights leader MLK. He signed an executive order at the White House Thursday. As we just saw, the president instructed his aide, as we heard also in the video, to give the pen he used to sign the order to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the late Robert F. Kennedy, and Mr. Trump's nominee to run the Department of Health and Human Services. The elder Kennedy served as a U.S. Attorney General, New York Senator, and was a Democratic presidential candidate when he was slain in 1968. And I have to say that the 60s Democrats are probably equivalent to almost Republicans that lean left almost, because the left today, or the Democrats today, are off the charts, especially the leftists. And the left and the Democrats often clash, far more often than they try to label the right. But then we have to then ask them, what is the right, considering that anything just a hair away from the left is considered right? Mr. Trump is ordering the Director of National Intelligence and Attorney General, neither official has been confirmed yet, to spend the next 15 days coming up with a plan to release the JFK files. Then they have 45 days to come up with plans to release all the RFK and MLK files. After a release of some of the JFK files in 2022, the National Archives and Records Administration said 97% of the roughly 5 million pages in its collection released to the assassination were public. The president promised during the first administration in 2017 that he would release the remaining JFK files. That included some 3,000 documents that had never been made public, and 30,000 that had been previously released with redactions, but not all the files were made public during the first term. It's absolutely extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has done more in these last 3 to 4 days. Well, as of this recording, it would be 4 days. Well, whatever. What day is it? I don't even know what day it is. Yes, the last 4 days. I'm looking at the date down there, and it's the 23rd. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has done more. The media can't even keep up with everything that he's done. Promises made, promises kept. We talked a little bit about Donald Trump attending the Libertarian Convention. And at the Libertarian Convention, everybody was going nuts over Ross Ulbricht. Now, many of you are probably saying, Who is Ross Ulbricht, and why is this so imperative? So not only did Donald Trump excite millions of people around the world with the release of the declassification, but also every libertarian is absolutely ecstatic, popping champagne bottles everywhere. President Trump announced Tuesday that he has pardoned Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road, an underground website that the FBI once called the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet. They had to label it that way because the Silk Road was so encrypted that the FBI could not infiltrate it. And so they had to pin all of this negative nonsense on Ross Ulbricht to the extent that they went and arrested him for activities that he was not even aware of. Ulbricht was sentenced to life in prison in 2015. Mr. Trump posted on Truth Social, his social media site, in case someone didn't know what Truth Social was, that he had spoken to Ulbricht's mother on his first full day in office. It was my pleasure to have just signed a full and unconditional pardon of her son, Ross, he wrote. The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who were involved in the modern-day weaponization of government against me. He called Ulbricht's prison sentence ridiculous. During the campaign, he had promised to help Ulbricht in a speech at the Libertarian Party National Convention last May, as we just mentioned. It is, wow, ladies and gentlemen, we are on day 3 of Trump becoming president, and it is just getting cut loose, as some people would say. And of course, the person who is more ecstatic than anyone could possibly be, that of course is going to be this gentleman here that I have on the screen. I'm going to intentionally not mention his name because the YouTube is still extraordinarily against this individual. And many on the left their eyes will bleed if you say his name, much less if you play anything that has his voice on it. But you can only imagine. Now, if you have an X account, make your way over to this individual's account page and listen to the rather extraordinary confirmations that he's been talking about for years. Leaked audios and these sorts of things are now all being confirmed. Well, for all those conspiracy theorists out there, this is a day that they'll be talking about this day probably for another 50 years, another half century, because this will, of course, give them the credibility that they have been talking about for years. And as we mentioned earlier, of course, the deep state, the machine, isn't going to just flip over and say, oh yeah, well, they're correct and we're in trouble and we should admit it. It's never going to happen. But this is a huge event for those who have been talking about these issues about RFK, MLK, and JFK for over 50 years. They've been talking about this, nearly 60. And so this is a big day for all of them. So you have to let me know down in the comments, were you one of these people that were waiting all this time, for a long time, for this information to be released so that you could pour through it? I imagine a lot of people are going to be going through this for a long time, and we're going to see lots of posts on X about the different elements and documents. And I believe it'll be all unredacted as well, which is going to be pretty extraordinary. But you see, this kind of illustrates that Donald Trump is not your typical standard politician. He is, in fact, a populist. And he wants to do good and make good for the American people. So promises made, promises kept. Donald Trump is getting it done. It almost feels like he has done more in 3 days than Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, all these guys did in their entire terms, or the limited term of Joe Biden's, of course, because he was told to step down. And but man, ladies and gentlemen, let me know down in the comments how excited, how thrilled you are about that, or even how excited you are about Donald J. Trump now being president, restoring the dignity, the respect, the strength of the American people, the sense of individuality. And it's just an amazing, amazing day. Now, for me, as I said, conspiracies and these sorts of things, these were really more of a passing interest, kind of a fascination. I would watch a lot of documentaries on it, but it wasn't something that I would scream to the top of my lungs about. But it is rather extraordinary. American exceptionalism is back on the table, and I couldn't be happier about it. I want to thank all you guys across New Tech, that's BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, for your guys' continued support here in 2025. Below this video, you can find the various social media links that I belong to include X, by the way, which I belong to. Here I am right here. Matter of fact, we can go straight here and click on that. And as you can see, I was up to about 1,066 followers, but they did a big cleanup. I guess a lot of them were bot related, because I get a lot of really bizarre followers on there. So we're back down to 966, but we're growing. And we're doing well, but it's a lot of it is thanks to you guys. And of course, as I always mention, the links down below. That's for those of you that have Prime or order frequently from Amazon, as well as VPN. These are things that do financially help out the channel, but your likes, your shares, and your comments also help tremendously. So that's all appreciated. And I'm still wondering how this is going to help us here across social media platforms with Donald Trump being in office now. Many of these platforms, I hope, are going to be more relaxed with their terms of services and so forth, because a lot of the time they were being attacked by the blue hairs on the left. You know, they were constantly attacking the platforms for not censoring this person, not censoring that person, not doing enough to silence that person. All these hate-filled people that are saying hate-filled things and misinformation and disinformation and all this nonsense that none of us could contest when it came to a lot of these over-exaggerated, absurd leftists. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, your likes, your shares, and your comments do help out the channel a great deal, and it is greatly appreciated. Appearing there on the screen, for those of you watching on the YouTubes, that's going to be the BuzWeaver avatar. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as select notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel, and I'll see all you guys in the Friday vlog tomorrow.